Greetings viewers, Eric the Car Guy here, and I am also known as ETCG1 when posting videos to this channel, and if you've been waiting for this, it's your time. Hey, if it's your birthday, I want to wish you a happy birthday and offer you this digital confection that I found for you on the internet. Now that we've got the pleasantries out of the way, this week's video is something of a callback to last week's video. I sort of apologize for this because, well, when thinking about this, when you make videos, you hope you put all the information in, but you might leave something out and it might be something important. And in this case, I'm referencing last week's video where I talked about the water leak coming into my new house that I just bought. Here I am in my new shop and everything. In fact, this is the truck's first appearance here. Well, actually it's been here before, but it lives here now. So I just brought the truck in and well, I hope to get this place squared away sometime soon. I'll talk about that in another video on another channel, but I want to stay focused on that previous video where I talked about the water leak, which is substantial because just to catch you up on this, I just purchased this property literally like with less than a month ago. And within a day after signing the papers, I find a significant water leak coming out of the driveway, up at the top of the driveway, in part of the driveway. In fact, the part that I showed you in that previous video is only like half the driveway. There's still another 500 feet or so that go back to the meter, so there's more to cover. But I wanted to answer to a couple of the things that kept coming up over and over in the comments of that previous video, and here we'll talk about those right now. And one of the things that came up over and over again was, Eric, why don't you, instead of burying a new water line under the driveway and tearing all of that up, why don't you just dig a ditch along the side of the driveway and run the water line that way? And that's a fantastic suggestion for probably this top part of the driveway, but that 500 feet or so that are before this part, that may not work so great. And much of that is because that first 500 feet or so is an easement. So I don't own the land on either side of it. Also, when you get up to one side of it, the side that may be best for digging, I'm not really sure, that side drops off pretty steeply off the side of the road. So it may not be ideal to do that. Now, the people that came out and gave me the estimate, what they were proposing was not ripping up my entire driveway for the 1,000 feet that goes from my water meter into my house. What they were suggesting is using a machine that basically bores underneath the ground, and every 100 feet or so, they have to dig a hole in order to connect the new piece of pipe and then do it that way. That's what they were suggesting. But as far as digging along the side of the driveway, again, that may work for part of it, but not necessarily for all of it. So as far as that goes, I'm not so sure that would work out. I'm not an expert, but this is what I know so far. Next on the list, which was something that was super, super popular, Eric, why don't you do that technique where they go inside of the old pipe and replace it with new pipe? So rather than digging everything up, what they're suggesting is there's a process that some plumber or somebody that has the machinery equipment to do this can go inside of your existing pipe, the one that's damaged, and pretty much line it with new pipe. The thing about that is that only works down to, I believe, about, I can't remember the exact number, I'm going to put them up on the screen. The line that is a supply line coming into my house is a 3/4 inch line, which is too small for that process. And the numbers are up on the screen now to help back up what I'm saying. I looked it up, but I forgot to write it down for now. Anyhow, the numbers don't add up. They can only do pipe down to a certain size, and the pipe that is the supply line coming into the house isn't that. So that's not going to work. Another very popular suggestion, and one that I entertained myself for a bit, was, Eric, why don't you dig a well and just forget about city water altogether? And that is a fantastic suggestion, except where I live. Now, I looked it up just to have some actual facts to bring to you here. But I looked up whether or not I even could put a well on my property. And you can put a well on your property in Hamilton County, but you have to go through the health department and they have to issue a permit. Now, if you read down through the things that they say that you need to comply with in order to even dig a well, in other words, the things that they're saying, if you have any of these conditions, don't even bother asking. I fall under several of those those conditions. One of those conditions is you can't be within, I think it was 50 feet or something like that, of a septic system. And the new house has a septic system. And I'm not saying that we can't get far away from that when we dig the well, but it gets a little deeper than that. When you read a little farther, it says is if you're in a floodplain or any of that kind of thing, any place where water's going to collect, they're like, no, you're not going to dig a well there. Well, guess what? I'm on the side of a hill, which is basically a drain. There's a creek that actually runs through part of my property that goes into a culvert and then empties out down at the bigger creek down at the bottom of the hill. So I am in all kinds of like waterway area. Things that I believe that they're going to say, no, you can't have a well there. So, albeit a good idea as far as digging my own well and saying the heck with spending all that money on that repair, that's fantastic information and a fantastic idea. However, I just don't think that's going to work here. Also, that means I have to maintain treatment of my own water and all that other stuff. And is that something I'm necessarily capable of or want to do? This is a 4.5 acre property. I'm going to be doing enough work here as it is, not to mention the fun stuff I want to have here in my brand new shop. So there's plenty of work to do, and I don't want to add more to that list. So I don't think digging a well in the property is going to be a good option or even a viable one. Now here's another one that I entertained for a second. Because I am on the side of a hill, I have gravity in my favor, and I entertained this for a bit. I thought, what happens if I get like a water tank and put it up on top of the hill and then just take my water from that? And I thought that that was a brilliant idea. And the more I thought it through, though, I'm like, okay, well, where's the water going to come from? Well, is that going to come from the city? Is it going to come from a service? Is it going to come from the sky? Am I going to collect it myself? Again, I'm faced with the same issues that I am with digging a well. And I'm certain that the health department is going to want to come out and monitor that whole thing and make sure that I'm doing it correctly. So it's a lot of hassle to try and do that. Not impossible, but it's one of those kind of things where I'm just like, yeah, I don't really think that that's the way I want to go. But I thought a really cool idea to take advantage of the fact that I do live on the side of a hill. And one thing of note, for those of you out there that may also live on the side of a hill, I really want to know from you, is there any level floor in your house? Just putting that out there, because as far as my house is concerned, the level is a suggestion. It's not necessarily there. And I attribute this to the fact that being on a hillside, like the land underneath your feet isn't necessarily as solid as you think it is, unless you're on bedrock or something like that. And it moves over time. And if you're on the side of a hill, gravity is going to happen, and the stuff that's on the side of that hill is going to move and wiggle. And I think that's kind of what's happened with my house. But anyway, and that may also be contributing to this water issue, because, you know, as this water line comes into my house, it makes a bend, it goes under the driveway and everything else. And here's something many of you brought up that's actually a really good point, is the fact that it's under the driveway, it's going to get pressure from stuff driving over it all the time. And also the fact that it's blacktop, the heat expansion rates of that as compared to if it was grass or ground would be different as well. Anyway, I'm not an expert in this, but the more I look into it, the more I find like these little roadblocks, and I wanted to share those things with you here. Now, there's one more thing that I want to share with you now that I learned from you in the comments to my most recent video that I posted over on Air at the Car Guy, introducing everybody to my brand new shop. And one of those things, let's go there now. All right, I want to do this quick because it's raining and I don't want to get my camera too wet. But I had thought that this is a well or some kind of wellhead or something like that. Completely wrong on that. And many of you pointed out exactly what this is. And what this is it's a type of valve that keeps the actual valve that opens and closes the water down below the frost line. So I think they call this a hydrant. Not really sure, but I didn't have to pump it at all. All I should have to do is lift this up and water should come out. The water's on right now, so it should come out with force. Yep, so that's what that is. So that is exactly as the viewers described. This is, I believe they called it a hydrant, and it's there so that you can have this water, but the valve that actually controls it is down below the frost line, and that way it won't freeze and break your valve or anything like that. So this is tied into the water system up there on the hill. This is the only water that I would have at the shop. One last thing with all of this that I consider to be an important piece of this whole puzzle And I moved in, well, we're all moved into the house, okay? But there's still all of my tools and everything that are in storage. And I just brought the truck, as I mentioned today, from storage and brought some stuff in it. It's raining, so I was only able to do underneath the tonneau cover. I wasn't able to haul as much as I wanted to. But there's still a bunch of tools and equipment that needs to make its way into this shop. And I don't want to start digging up the driveway or dealing with this water issue until after this has happened. Now, I believe I've got myself to a point where I've managed the issue pretty well. I've got a shotgun holster that actually holds my water wrench, and I'm able to ride my e-bike up, turn the water on and off at will, and it seems to be working so far. I'm not really sure what my water bill is yet. I'm not sure how much is leaking out, but I'm doing what I can to mitigate that leakage, not just because I don't want to pay for a bunch of water I'm not using, but also, as many of you have pointed out, many of you don't like, that water line is under the driveway, and as it leaks, it's going to wash away whatever soil is underneath that driveway and create an issue, well, other issues that could happen. That's not going to necessarily be a good thing at the top of that hill. So it is something I certainly need to address, but as I said, I'm managing it. As far as all the legal issues and everything else, I'm not going to talk about that here. I don't want to get into all that. My focus is on repairing this problem, not necessarily finding people and all that kind of thing. No matter what, I'm going to have to fix this problem. No matter what, I'm going to need water. I'm going to stay focused on that. And if there's nefarious stuff that went on in the background, well, I'll deal with that when I deal with that. But I need water at my house instead of riding back and forth to get it. Great exercise, but that's not what you want in your new house. All of that said, I am holding off, so to speak, for the next few weeks. I'm supposed to be out of storage by November 2025, so I need to get my stuff out in the next couple of weeks. So those of you that have offered help, I'm sort of trying to coordinate that with possibly painting this shop and possibly putting lighting in here before I move all my tools and stuff in. So there's other stuff at play as well. But know that I'm working on it, know that I'm focused on it, but most importantly, I am in this shop. This is mine. They're not taking it away unless I don't pay the mortgage. And all I need you to do is watch the videos and share them with your friends or what have you. And we shouldn't have a problem with that. So that's the long and the short of the water issues and the stuff that I left out of the previous video. And I'm sorry about that. I didn't think that through, but you guys are sharp. You certainly don't let me get by with much, if anything at all. And that's cool. You're keeping me honest. Thank you so much for watching today. If you have automotive questions, I ask that you head to ericthecarguy.com. That'll be linked in the description along with that previous video, along with the video introducing the shop and all that. So if you want to continue on the Eric the Car Guy rabbit hole, well, continue on. I would love it if you did. But if you have automotive questions, ericthecarguy.com is there for you 24/7, also linked in the description. See the theme here? Check the description. Thank you so much for watching today. Be safe, have fun, stay dirty. I'll see you next time. And once again, happy birthday.